Mosaic Theater presents Precarious, a sharp new comedy about motherhood, retirement, and the climate crisis. It's one family and a whole lot of messy. Starring the acclaimed Kim Schrath and Helen Hayes Award winner Zoe Walpole, this is a story about starting out, starting over, and the love that holds it all together. See Precarious June 4th through June 28th at the Atlas Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now at mosaictheater.org.
Today on CityCast DC, we're going to get into the mayoral race as it heads into its final week. We're going to talk about why you should pay attention to what's happening at the Rock Creek Tennis Center, even if you don't play tennis. And we're going to talk new bars. Plus, in a members-only fourth segment, the DC Council has done something weird to the city's open meetings law, and we actually want to use this as a chance to talk about the state of transparency in our city. I'm joined by my CityCast colleague, Kayla Cote-Stemmerman, and by Axios' Junaid Dill. Friday, June 5th. I'm Michael Schaefer. Here's what DC's talking about. Hey, Kayla.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Junaid.
Hey, Mike. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It's been a while, my friend.
It has been. Yeah, no, it's great to be on the CityCast podcast.
Junaid, for those of you who don't know, is the host of Washington's second best news-oriented podcast.
Yes, we're the greatest podcast in the world about local politics and business, very specifically.
In DC, specifically.
In DC.
All right, so do you guys, Popville spotted this week some no parking signs downtown. It's no parking because Netflix. They were the people listed as being responsible for the no parking. And some sleuthing determined that Kerry Washington of Scandal fame is filming a Netflix special in Washington. It's called An Innocent Girl. And it is about a young woman who comes to Washington, gets hooked up with a DC couple, is drawn into a dangerous world of sex, power, and murder. It will run sometimes next year. But that gets me thinking, what are your guys' favorite Washington pop culture vehicles?
I have to say, I Scandal was pretty informative for me as a young college grad. I think that is actually probably 80% of the reason I moved to DC in the first place. I was really determined that I was going to be Olivia Pope. So yeah, Kerry Washington, thank you, I guess.
Junaid, what about you?
I was in college. House of Cards was like the big thing, and but I love the classics like All the President's Men. As like a young reporter at my college paper, watching that and just thinking, I gotta go write about this. I guess a snack bar that's opening or something like a Bob Woodward.
You blew the cover off that snack bar.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like we're kind of the era, Junaid, of like when DC TV, like political shows were very dark and like scandalous, and it was all about like sex and power and money and whatever. And the generation before that had like West Wing and All the President's Men and like this really sort of idealistic view of DC and of the power dynamics in DC. And I kind of feel like we got a little bit messed up maybe because of that.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I remember trying to watch West Wing and thinking, wow, it's so like glowy and
so unrealistic,
so amazing, idealistic and everything. And I didn't finish. I never finished West Wing, but
I admit.
It's a completely different world. Yeah, you're right.
What about you, Mike?
So at this point, I always defend Dick, which was a parody.
Come again? Sorry.
So to speak. So it was a 1990s parody of All the President's Men with Kirsten Dunst and Michelle Williams. They play these two kind of ditzy girls who live in the Watergate. And basically the premise is that they have caused everything. The infamous door is taped open because they were sneaking out. But Nixon thinks that they know everything about the scandal and tries to buy them off, blah, blah, blah. But it treats Watergate as a farce. And it's got, like, Will Ferrell plays Woodward. So it kind of like, one of my friends made this case around the time it came out, that this movie, particularly after the identity of Deep Throat was known, and it was like, it wasn't some like noble crusader, it was a dude who was mad about being passed up for a promotion, that it captured a banality about it that I think actually there's something kind of true about that.
There's something realistic, about that.
Yeah, even though the movie, I mean, it had like, I think like Dan Hedaya played Nixon. Anyway, the point is, it's not like a serious movie, but it maybe in a weird way got it in ways that All the President's Men didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
So that's my 2 cents.
Sometimes the mundane and sort of the tragic comedy of it all echoes more, I don't know, real in a way.
But I think that the movies, the shows you guys cited, if the Kerry Washington character in this forthcoming Netflix movie had seen them, she would know already that she should not get mixed up with a DC power couple, because clearly that intrigue is going to lead to sex, murder, and death.
Mm-hmm. I think
that's the first thing you learn.
I haven't seen Veep either.
Oh, come on.
I feel like I need to get thrown out of this podcast.
Get out of here. Yeah, that's it for you.
All right, well, if you had seen a show about a vice mayor, I think you'd have watched that one if that had been out, because you are a City Hall reporter. So I need to talk to you about the mayoral race. Sorry, I was reaching for the transition.
Good transition.
There was yesterday a debate, an in-person debate between Kenyon McDuffie and Janice Lewis George. I've been obsessed with mild-mannered Kenyon McDuffie's sort of reinvention of himself as like the avenging anti-crime guy, and whether that'll work or not. But what kind of dynamics are you noting here?
Yeah, I mean, the debate was a lot about Trump in a way that was a little surprising. But when you think about it, we're so focused on the day-to-day of this campaign. But when you zoom out, a lot of voters are going to go to the ballot box with President Trump in mind, I think, whether that's sort of like the first thing they think about, or it kind of is diffuse over all these other issues, like everything seems downstream of Trump. And I think for undecided voters, especially in Ward 3, this is kind of speculation, but what I've heard from analysts and observers is that a lot of people will go for who seems toughest on Trump. And for like people who are not following DC politics all that closely about whether what she voted on this issue or how he voted on that bill, like who will handle the biggest issue of the day, which is this president who downstream of that you can blame for costs going up or the way he's running the White House and all these other things. Candidates seem to be focusing on that message in particular.
But wait, what are you basing this idea that there's a block of voters who are going to go for the candidate who is most tough on Trump? I mean, McDuffie's message about public safety, one of them is, hey, we better get this right or else Trump will take things over, which is not exactly like a stick it to the man, like stand up to Trump argument. And I have not seen that in any like polling data that we did. Have other polls or do campaigns tell you that based on their research, this is a thing that voters are responding to?
The opening remarks McDuffie keeps repeating over and over across town is, my fight is not with Janice Lewis George or XYZ. It's with President Trump and Republicans. And I think, yes, like the actual issues are more so about affordability and public safety. You can debate which one's more important. But I think big picture, this is a message that resonates. People can immediately understand this person's against Trump. And on the other side, like Janice Lewis George was painting him as being soft on Trump and taking donations from people who have voted for Trump. And so there was a lot more Trump talk that kind of made me realize I think a lot of people will be considering that when going to the ballot box. People who are especially not as, reading every day about, like we are, about the latest twist and turn in the race.
And did either of the candidates really get into like any tactics or specifics about what they wanted to do once they got into office to actually do that? Because I find it, it's obviously easy to use him as a scapegoat, but then you see, Mayor Bowser had such trouble, working with him and like putting up boundaries like that. Is that going to be even possible for them, like once they're actually in office?
They didn't give a great answer when they were asked straight up from the moderator, Mark Seagraves, what would you do differently? What tools would you use? Janice Lewis George said she would use the Attorney General's office to go after Trump more. But even there, I think you will end up having to be diplomatic about how you deploy lawsuits against Trump. And I'm just realistically speaking, I don't think they want to poke that bear that much, which kind of all comes back to what they're saying is not that different from what the current mayor has done. She has tried to find areas of cooperation, and on other issues, she has tried to not lose home rule as much as possible. But I guess one thing you could say is definitely different will be that the new mayor, both of them, say they will rescind any executive order with that would allow cooperation with ICE and MPD. That's one big difference. But other than that, I don't see. Yeah, I don't see how else they're going to push back that much more.
See, I guess I read the invocations of Trump's name in debates differently. These guys are playing out a massive, real-time schism within the sort of Democratic blue coalition. And some of the stuff we found in our CityCast poll, some of the stuff you're seeing on the campaign trail with particularly among white people, a division between young and old, huge polarization around level of education, and playing out in this fight between sort of normie mainstream Democrats and progressives. That's the kind of dynamic. When McDuffie invokes Trump, I'm not fighting with Janice, I'm standing up to Trump. It is hey, let's put these fights aside and all join together, presumably under the moderate, to stand as one. And Louis George is doing something different, where it's no, these fights are important because McDuffie or the centrists are Trump, with his nose under the tent. So she's using Trump to highlight divisions within the Democratic coalition rather than to sort of try to paper over them and wish them away.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think any way you can tie your opponent to Trump in any way, and Janice Louis George is trying very hard to make this stick, this argument that he took Trump supporter donations, which just only seem to be maybe a few dozen or whatever. She wants him to return that money, and she thinks it is a legitimately big issue because why would you take money from someone who supports what she believes is sort of this, someone who's destroying the city? That's a potent political message.
He can't say the real answer, which is he takes money from people who are trying to influence governments, and people who try to influence governments, particularly in real estate, give money to the president.
Mm-hmm.
Whether
yeah,
or not
but
that's
I mean,
Trump.
then and then a consultant might say, well, then you're explaining, and that's not a great place to be in as a politician. I mean, I think
and I think saying I take money from people who are trying to manipulate the government is also not a good place to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they were trying very hard to differentiate themselves, and that included a lot of attacks both ways. What you just mentioned alluded to the fact that Janice Louis George called Trayon White, council member under indictment for bribery, a mentor recently, something that came up immediately or repeatedly rather at this debate, also on TV. If you've been scrolling on social media, sometimes you run across these ads too. They're both slinging mud. They're trying to see what sticks. And it's a close race. But the top issues are affordability or public safety. And for Janice Louis George, when I asked her, she said unequivocally it's affordability. And for Kenyon McDuffie, who has made public safety seemingly the thing he talks about the most, he was well, it depends who you talk to around town. And I think he's trying to still figure out what his last closing message will be, because I don't think he can be everything.
It seems to me he's just doubled or tripled or quadrupled down on the public safety thing, and then brought in her ties to Trayon White, this council member who's under indictment, and blah, blah, blah. Yesterday, Trayon White on his Instagram was shame on you, Kenyon McDuffie, he said, this is sucka shit. He said that basically, how dare you, I'm fighting for my freedom, he said, which makes him sound like it's Mandela or, like someone standing up.
And McDuffie's people are, happy to, see the scandal keep going and going and going. And the more Trayon White's talking about Janice Louis George, not great.
And he took that post down, and I was I'm not sure who is more unhappy about that post. Was it his lawyers? Because lawyers always want the clients to shut up before trial. Or was it Janice Lewis-George, who the last thing she wants is more news cycle off her ties to this person who they're trying to make toxic?
Now, White also told ABC7 that he will vote for her and supported her.
So moving on from the debate, we ourselves have been poking around a little bit, asking people around town just what they think, getting some audio for that. And a lot of people are preparing for the election. It's mere days away now. And we're having ranked choice voting. And a lot of people still are getting their minds wrapped around what that means, how to do it, and when we'll be seeing results. Is there anything that you can speak to, Janae, that you've seen about how people are getting prepared to vote in the upcoming election?
It's confusing for a lot of people, and people should expect to take more time at the ballot box if they're going in person to roll out, fill out all these options. The Board of Elections expects results to possibly take a few days to be worked through the tabulation of who will clear 50% support in some close races. So some of the campaigns don't know their evening plans yet on election day because they don't know if they'll get what the results will look like, how much of it we'll have. It's
like if you look at what's happening in California right now, where they're taking a very long time to count because it's, a state that believes in counting every vote and getting all these mail votes in. The Republicans like Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump himself have been on social media saying they're cheating. This is, it's being stolen. Silence, it creates this vacuum where people, demagogues can kind of wriggle in, and there's no reason to think that wouldn't happen in DC either. Do you know if the campaigns, the city, does anyone have a plan for that? Like how they will communicate and maintain social cohesion or not during a long wait?
I haven't heard that. The Board of Elections is supposed to brief reporters soon, and there's been some question of if they've been communicative enough. But I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. Trust in institutions is obviously not very high right now, and anything the city can do to be more communicative, I think, is good. This is definitely an unusual election year, and a new way of voting too. So I think that's very interesting. Yeah.
District Bridges is making it happen on U Street this summer. Join the 4th annual Juneteenth at Harrison, June 18th from 3 to 9 p.m. at Harrison Park. Come celebrate freedom, culture, and community with live go-go music, DJs, local art, youth activities, and family-friendly programming honoring the legacy of Black Broadway right here in the heart of Washington, D.C. Can't make it? I got you, because District Bridges is connecting communities across D.C. all year round through programs, events, and local initiatives that bring people together. Join your neighborhood's cleanup crew or volunteer at an event like Cleveland Park Day on June 7th. To learn more about the Juneteenth celebration and all the great stuff that District Bridges has going on, go to districtbridges.org. That's districtbridges.org.
Here's something from our sponsors at the DC Department of Behavioral Health. Let me give you a number that matters, 33%. That's how much fatal opioid overdoses dropped in DC from 2023 to 2024. And the DC Department of Behavioral Health is connecting people to prevention, treatment, and recovery every single day. But the work isn't done. Whether you're looking for help, looking for answers, or looking out for someone you love, don't wait. Know your worth, know your alternatives, know your value, know yourself. Resources are available right now at knowyourpathdc.com. Are either of you guys tennis players?
A little bit. Haven't played in a while.
Have you ever played at Rock Creek?
I have actually, yeah.
I am not a tennis player, so I've never played at Rock Creek. I did teach my teenager how to drive in the parking lot of the Rock Creek Tennis Center because there's a lot of room.
I did that same thing. I was a teenager learning to drive from my parents.
How'd you do? Did you pass the test the first time?
The first time, I think so. Actually, yeah, I did.
So that is one of these weird federal DC hybrids, where it's effectively like a neighborhood tennis center slash driving area most of the time. It has the DC Open every year, so there's like a stadium there. But the rest of the time, it's sort of for the community's use. But it is a piece of federal parkland. So this is a lot like the golf course at Haynes Point that has become such a controversy. The Post had a story at the beginning of this week about how officials in the Park Service were worried about some of the edicts and some of the direction that they feel like the Trump administration wants to take the Rock Creek Golf Course and plans to rent it out to the person that Post identified as Mark Ein, the owner of the tennis tournament. The concerns were basically this is going to take something that is for public use and put it into private use, because it includes some chunk of parkland. And so they didn't really explain how much parkland or which bit of parkland, but it's sort of the next, I suspect it will be like next year's version of the Haynes Point fight, where you can make a case like, look at that, it's kind of a dowdy stadium, it's not that great, the tournament is like sort of a second tier tournament, and shouldn't the capital of the country have like a first rung tournament? But that's one weekend a year, and then the rest of the time it's for like normal people, like of the class of people who don't get to join a fancy country club. Do you have a sense, either of you guys, about how this will likely go? Is the city doing anything on it? Are there organizations?
I mean, this tennis court is also, it's pretty notoriously like worn down and needs a renovation, right? So it's a similar situation we've seen with a lot of these public spaces in DC, where it's like, anybody can admit that, yeah, it needs some upkeep and it needs some love. But at what cost?
Right. And that's the thing with Trump. He's right about a lot. Like the Kennedy Center is a little bit,
and that's what makes it so difficult. Yeah. Like as a resident, as somebody who goes to these places and, has grown up in these places, even though I did not myself learn to drive there, it's a tough reconciliation to make.
Right. And then, it creates the situation where the people who are like against the proposal because they think of it as like a giveaway to the rich or a travesty against the arts or whatever the subject is, they wind up effectively like defending, graffiti strewn fountains or a ratty tennis court or whatever. And that's a tough position to be in any kind of public debate.
This wasn't contracted out previously to Mark Ein's group?
I do not believe it was.
Mark Ein has talked previously about how he is so frustrated with the National Park Service in terms of trying to upgrade that facility. I remember that years ago, just echoing all the other complaints people have about NPS taking too long to fix up other parts of DC. I guess the issue is this has gone through a speedier process without as many checks as, contracts usually go through.
Right. And I think that a lot of people, pre-Trump in DC, I remember doing a column about the effort to turn the canal in Georgetown into something that was supposed to be like the High Line, a destination with food and activities and stuff. And the people who were for that were beside themselves about the Park Service, which was, opposed to everything and was obsessed with like maintaining the historic integrity of a canal that last operated in the 1840s. Complain that the Park Service they're obsessed with like preserving Yellowstone, but not about making a thing that has like nice amenities for like people who live in a big city and just want to get out of the house and have some fun. And that they're no good at that. But now that everyone in DC is like hates Trump and is, appalled by some of the things he's proposing, all of a sudden the things in the Park Service that they saw as hidebound and, foot draggy are suddenly their friend.
And is the concern here environmental? Like, is that the main pushback, or is the main pushback, keeping it community space, like a free community space?
I think it's the pushback, as it has many facets, but I think people who don't like the idea of privatizing anything are motivated by the community space. That this is we've had access to this place with a bunch of tennis courts, and now we won't anymore, or it'll change. There's also some question about like how much public parkland becomes part of this, and that's unspecified. I think like once you get into a thing where you're trying to stop some project, you are going to use any lever at your disposal. So if there are like environmental impact studies that need to be done and so on, all of a sudden those are going to be the thing you use because it's a tool that the system gives you. But I think that people who are anxious about a change there are people who use it as a public good.
It looks like the feds first tried to give this land to the city, and Mark Ein was circulating an idea to upgrade it, and then that suddenly got put on ice last July.
Right, and now we're here. So I think the idea is, like anybody who wants to do a glitzy private thing or a semi-private thing, they're not just gonna come in and be like, I'm taking this over. Get out of here, you plebes. They will have a component where like, hey, we're gonna actually make this nicer for you. That like we actually, we do tennis professionally or golf professionally or whatever the thing is, and we're gonna be better at this than your Parks Department or the National Park Service. So that will be the pitch. It's just we're in a time when not everyone's going to buy that pitch because they assume that there's like a hidden plan to hijack it on behalf of the rich.
Is that the plan?
There is one.
The plan is to make it sort of the golf course East Potomac equivalent.
Well, no one knows what the plan is. I just think we're in a moment of like maximal distrust. So you're going to assume the plan is like the worst thing you can see. I don't know the answer to this. I just think like this is where it's another place where you have a National Park Service resource that doesn't quite fit the big national definition or national goals of the Park Service, that is used as like a somewhat careworn amenity for local people in DC at a time when you have an administration that's run by someone who's a showman and wants everything to be glitzy and high priced and big audience.
Well, if I can just say, I would love to see something done to the grassy expanse of Carter Barron, where I grew up playing soccer there like so many times, just the worst soccer field. If you can do a lot with that site.
So you're saying you'd like to turn it into a very expensive private soccer stadium?
No,
you're not welcome at.
Put turf fields in it, maybe. There's a lot someone could do with this if they
turf fields were like maybe this is like too Biden era, but turf fields were the subject of an enormous impassioned DC argument a couple of years ago.
Oh, I know. Well, is this the lead in the turf apparently
it
argument?
Sure is.
Well,
sure is.
I might have lead poisoning from all the turf fields I've played soccer on. So at this point, I don't know what to say. There's not much I can say about that. It's already happened.
Hey there, it's Mike. One of our sponsors today is DC's Board of Elections, who want DC voters to know the primary and special elections are coming up on June 16th. And for the first time, we're using ranked choice voting, or RCV. You can now rank up to 5 candidates on your ballot. If your first choice candidate doesn't make it, your vote moves to your second choice and continues to your next choice until there's a winner. Just remember, do not give multiple candidates the same ranking, do not rank a candidate more than once, and do not skip rankings. You can vote by drop box, during early voting, by mail, or on Election Day. Have questions about the elections or RCV? Contact the DC Board of Elections at 202-727-2525 or visit dcboe.org. DC, get ready to rank your vote.
Don't miss Folger Theater's How Shakespeare Saved My Life, playing June 9th through July 5th at the Folger Shakespeare Library. In this rolling world premiere, Broadway star Jacob Ming Trent creates a one-man comedy that one critic proclaims Shakespeare would have loved. Born with a gift for poetry but rejected as unfit to play the part of the poet, Ming Trent invites us to take a deep dive into the crevices of his youth. Calling on the bard and a host of genius rappers, half-crazed preachers, and soulful poets, he takes us on a propulsive ride that reaffirms the power of language and music. It's in DC for a limited time only. Tickets start at $20 and can be purchased online at folger.edu or by phone at 202-544-7077. Get yours today.
Kayla, you on Tuesday night, if I understand it correctly, you magically went to 3 different bar openings.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. There was 3 new bars in DC that all opened or had opening parties on Tuesday. And 2 of them are actually like rebirths of old DC institutions. One of those being Teco Palma, which used to be El Teco in Shaw. It's sort of like right on the corner by the Howard Theater. And it's a rooftop bar that they just put a ton of money into like redoing. They just spent $10,000 on like tropical plants that are hanging all throughout the bar. So that was the first stop. Have either of you been to Alteco when it was?
I don't think so.
Oh, really? Okay. I spent quite a few evenings there as a young intern. And it's really like making that whole corner of Florida Ave really happening now, because you have that spot, you have EB's, which just opened up, you have 600T, which is in the basement of that building, and it's really creating like a whole new little nightlife neighborhood there.
So when you say I used to spend a lot of time there as a young intern, I think most people who have aged out of being young interns, which now includes you, would probably
not that appealing, I guess.
Would probably hear that and say like, "No way, do I want to hang out there?"
I saw nobody under the age of 25. I think when I was there.
Now
on Tuesday, yes. I think they've really elevated it. Honestly, like I think it's now a much more sit down experience. They also have a lot of DJs coming in and out. It's become a little bit more upscale, I would say, than it was in the past. But if you are looking for that more divey, shot beer combo vibe, the other one I went to was Frank's Wild Years, which is the same owners as Snappy's Small Bar, which is in Petworth, and also the Blackguard, if you're familiar with that. And this one was like very highly anticipated. It's extremely, extremely cute. It's right by Garden District on 14th Street. And you walk in and it's almost like it's like a circus. It's like there's like circus lights. It's also divey. There's like red glowy mood lighting and a wooden bar and a checkered floor. And it's extremely chill and the bartenders are very friendly. Everything is less than $12, whether it's a cocktail or a beer or whatever you want. But I really think it's going to be sort of like maybe the new EB's. It has that same neighborhood chill, relaxed vibe. They're not like pushing you out. It's always very, it's crowded, it's fun. And I think it's going to be one of my new favorite spots on 14th Street for sure.
Whoa, new EB's. Okay.
I don't know. I know. It's saying a lot. But I do think it has that same old school DC neighborhood vibe that seems to be very popular right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's such a weird,
yeah.
Were there neighborhood bars in DC? Because I've lived here a long time, and I lived in Philly for a while. That's a city full of neighborhood bars. Washington really wasn't. So it's like we have neighborhood bar themed bars.
Yeah, I see.
But not
this is a
actual
debate.
neighborhood
I
bars.
think. Yes, I think this is up for debate. It depends on what you define as a neighborhood bar. I think it's when I say that term, I'm thinking of it as just like the vibe, right? Like the theme. Not maybe necessarily only a bar that people in that neighborhood go to, which I think you're right, is a different thing. And DC doesn't have a lot of.
All right, so tell about the Rigsby.
Oh, yeah. And then the last one is the Rigsby. Did either of you go to this before it closed like 7 years ago?
I don't. Where is it?
It used to be in a hotel space in DuPont. Now it's just sort of moved down the street, essentially to another hotel, the Royal Sonesta Hotel. And it's like very speakeasy vibes, very dark and moody, lots of velvet, plush, dark corners, very expensive cold martinis, and pretty much the exact opposite vibe.
Are they colder than other martinis? Are they colder than other martinis?
Oh, I guess it depends where you go, but I thought so.
I wanted to test once, bring like a thermometer and test 3 different martinis in DC. Which one has the coldest one?
I would pay for that
Never
article.
did it.
Yeah.
No, you
Just
should
gave
do
me
it.
an idea.
But I'm reading they have caviar hash browns at this place.
Yeah, it's also a restaurant. Pretty like upscale restaurant, I would say. I did not try the caviar hash browns though. I'm a little bit against throwing caviar on things that don't need caviar on them, to be completely honest. So it's not something
You're
I
not
would
into the
actively pay
lowbrow,
for.
highbrow.
Yeah, I don't like that
combo.
trend. I think
Just
there's
keep
no
them
reason to pay
separate.
more money for that.
What I might do is order some hash browns and order some caviar.
Yeah. Or, I mean, like, even chips with caviar, right? Like, that's a classic.
Yeah.
And, like, creme fraiche. But I don't need it on. Like, there's a bar, Lobby Bar in Eastern Market that does this. They just put caviar on everything. And then it's, like, a $50 hot dog. And I'm not really sure what we're doing here with that, to be honest.
Showing the world we got $50
Yeah.
to spend on a hot dog.
But anyway, have I convinced you of any of those to go visit maybe this week or next week?
Oh, all of them. Well,
Yeah?
Except, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll see you there, Mike.
But
Yeah, I
wait,
heard CityCast is paying for these caviar dishes.
Yeah. It's, come on, it's on us. Let's go.
Wait, Kayla, let me ask you a big question. What can we learn about like the state of DC, the vibes of DC, the culture of DC from the fact that these three places have decided to invest in this particular way in opening bars? They're clearly putting enough money into it that they're throwing opening parties and inviting the likes of you.
Wow, that's a little likes of me.
The likes of you. But just to say, like they're making a bet on something working. What's the something that they're betting on?
Absolutely. It's interesting. I feel like they're betting on nostalgia. I feel like they're betting on people that have been in DC for a decade, remembering these classic institutions, remembering this feeling and wanting it back. And they see places like EB's, which are succeeding so extraordinarily well, and have constant influx of customers. And I think it's really promising, honestly, because that's the kind of institutions that I want to see in DC. I want to see more local, more low-key, more, bring back the good old days rather than maybe transplant restaurants from places like New York or LA, which seem to have kind of ruled the scene for the last few years, and really put things more like, Instagrammability and, vibe maybe above the actual quality of the food and drinks, which has its place, of course. But as, somebody who's been in DC a long time, it's honestly really refreshing and very nice to see this sort of new trend of Back to the Future sort of.
Kayla, you wrote your column a few weeks ago on 44, the Obama musical.
Yeah.
And so it occurs to me that you may be the first person on this trend of like Obama era DC nostalgia.
Yeah, it's screaming 2018. Everything is just taking me back to that. I also did an article on a man who has a Commander's collection of Commander's memorabilia, and that article was also all about nostalgia. So really, my newsletter this week, Obsessed, is truly the theme is like DC nostalgia and going like really hardcore into that and what it means to be a part of these things and to remember these things.
All right, today, paid subscribers get a bonus 4th roundup chat. We're going to talk about the council's closed-door meetings and why there may soon be more of them. If you want to be sure you always get a full episode, please become a member. Head to membership.citycast.fm and sign up. It's only $10 a month. Members get ad-free listening, exclusive members events, and an extra events newsletter every week. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. And that's all for today here on CityCast DC. Our production team this week was Annie Reese, Julia Karen, Ash Durbin, Laura Tsutsi, Alyssa Castles, and Katie McMurrin. Our newsletter writers are Emma Uber, Kayla Cote-Stemmerman, and me, Michael Schaefer. And our hosts are Bridget Todd, and also me, Michael Schaefer. Music is by Alex Roldan, with additional music from Rue Walker and Philip Ayers from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. If you enjoyed the show, why not go to one of those bars Kayla's writing about and tell everyone there about it? We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.